Feeling back yet? Welcome back to an episode of the Steelers Breakdown Podcast, folks. Nick Farabaugh here, back in Latrobe again, and we officially can talk about some football. Some actual practice football, not completely there yet. We don't have a game yet, but it's getting there, folks. It's getting closer and closer. Steelers took the practice field for the first time in training camp today here at St. Vincent College. And this episode is going to speak for itself. Each day that there's training camp, we're going to come on here at Steelers Breakdown. We're going to talk about things that I saw. You can also go check out Steelers Training Camp Rewind, where I do more of a quick hit edition. This one's going to go a little bit more in depth. We'll probably touch more spots too over these next few minutes. I want to talk about today kind of Arthur Smith and his philosophies that I saw. First of all, I think you see his detail. I think you see what he wants to bring to the table with that detail fairly consistently. I think, he is such a detailed guy right off the bat. Everything has to have a why. And I thought they lacked that with Matt Canada last year. So having that side of an offense coordinator is key. But from a scheme perspective, what really stood out to me were a few things. One, I thought that wide zone, outside zone, whatever you want to call it, it still looks like the dominant thing here in his offense. Now, that's not, something that is groundbreaking, to be quite honest with you. I think could be expected to be expected with Arthur Smith. He ran outside zone more than anybody last year in the NFL. He ran wide zone 54% of the time. Kyle Shanahan ran it 46% of the time. So when you're beating Kyle Shanahan by, well, that much, it's not a huge surprise at all to see that shift. But here's what the Steelers kind of are going to work out of. Two tight ends, three tight ends, fullback, multiple running back, condensed formations, splits, play action out of pistol. Like we saw all of this. Vertical based routes, a lot of horizontal routes underneath. You're going to see corners and slants and drags and all that over routes. I mean, all these kind of pop out, right? And that's really, what I saw today. That was a key takeaway. I think Arthur Smith's, bread and butter is what we saw today. We haven't seen the wrinkles yet. If you wanted, like, for example, a Justin Fields package, obviously he was QB1 today with Russell Wilson out. And we'll get to Justin Fields here in just a second. But you didn't really see it. If you want to see more gap schemes in the run game, like we didn't see any of that. What we saw was a very, very similar version of Arthur Smith's offense. And so I thought that was interesting. But the question I have gotten a lot was Justin Fields. And in the latest recap, I kind of put it out there that I thought he was good. I didn't think he was, like a superstar. I'm not going to call him the star of the day. I think that would actually not be describing it because I thought the offense didn't play well enough, for a quarterback to be labeled star of the day. I just thought, Russell Wilson probably wouldn't have done much different either. It just looked like general sloppiness. There were a few that I thought he was a little late on. And I thought, Justin Fields did commendable things. I thought he kind of rose to the challenge of being a leader. He approached it the correct way. I thought the deep ball was dazzling. The throw to Van Jefferson, I mean, folks, you want to talk about this. Dante Jackson fell down the line of scrimmage, but it was 50 yards in stride perfectly over the safety. I mean, he threw it perfectly. He threw a great slant to George Pickens. When he threw the ball today, he really hit them in stride. The accuracy, I think, was great. And I had been concerned a little bit, because I thought he had sprayed balls a little bit all over the place. I didn't think he did it as much today. And so I think that's a real positive when you look at Justin Fields, right? I thought Justin Fields embraced the nature of what he wanted. I thought he didn't panic. I didn't see him like running around and trying to play backyard football. I'm not going to call him special, but I thought he was pretty good today. So, would I put him, as like a top three winner today? I wouldn't, but I would say he looked solid and in a big opportunity, right? They gave him a big opportunity to put him in there in quarterback one, obviously with Russell Wilson's calf tightness. So, very important for Justin Fields. And so, I thought he stepped up well in that role. I also think, and we've talked about this, Pat Freiermuth, man, is just everywhere on offense. I mean, he is everywhere on offense, all over the football field, catching everything, making tough grabs. Just did so much for this group today. Had at least 15 targets. I mean, they really fed it to him. And the route tree that he talked about, he talked in the spring about how his route tree is going to diversify. Like you saw it today, choice routes. He ran hitches, stick and nods, slants, corners, posts. I mean, he ran so many routes in the book for a tight end. So you saw it really pop. He was the guy I looked up, and then I was like, man, Pat Freiermuth, another catch. So really good day for Pat Freiermuth. I thought he was kind of the star of the day, to be quite honest with you. On defense, I thought there were a few things to note. I think a lot of people have been kind of asking me about Dante Jackson because George Pickens beat him on a slant, and then obviously he fell on the Van Jefferson play. And they've been kind of construing it into, did he have a bad day? And I'd say no. I think he played pretty well today. I thought he was fiery in run defense, came down with the physical nature, and he's not the biggest guy. So when you have that tenacity, that's a really good thing. I thought he was competitive. He had a pass breakup of George Pickens. He had two or three pass breakups, just on deep balls alone. I think he had 4 or 5 on the day. So really impressed actually by Dante Jackson. They went at him an extraordinary amount today. So I thought he did well for what they gave him. Deshaun Elliott, when you talk about the nickel situation, I think you have to talk about Deshaun Elliott. People aren't talking about it enough, but he's going to be a rundown slot as much. He was in the slot a lot today. Made 2 pass breakups, one on a slot fade towards Pat Freiermuth, and another one on a hitch route. So Sean Elliott had a good day today. Beanie Bishop, first team slot corner. Man, if you have heard me speak anytime over the spring, you know how much I like Beanie Bishop, and you know how well I thought he played in the spring. Well, this very clearly, the Steelers agreed because they just elevated him to first team. He's playing over Josiah Scott. He's playing over Thomas Graham and Graylin Arnold and others. And today didn't have really a target go his way, but good for BD Bishop. I think he's right on track to potentially be this team's starting slot corner. So the secondary had some moving pieces. They make Fitzpatrick doing a lot of that rovering in the back, coming downhill in the robber roll. The things we kind of heard about seems to be happening. I thought DeMarvin Leal had a good day today. D line is tough to kind of evaluate when you don't have pads on. But he knifed into the backfield, I think, twice, would have had a sack. He had a nice day today. Hot motor. I thought he was flying around. And I think that's really important. He looked highly conditioned, which I think he sometimes at points has not in the past. So I think that is very important as well. So I look at him and say, man, I think there's a lot of good that came from what you saw there with DeMarvin Leal. So let's see if he can continue it. He's got a stacked days. Obviously, been a good first day, a good start for a guy that's fighting on the roster fringe, but he's still young. and the book could still be open on DeMarvin Leal. He's only 24 years old, and so the Steelers drafted him young out of Texas A&M. He came out very raw, so keep an open mind. And it seems like there's a shot there for him to keep growing. It's a good start to the training camp for him. Another guy I look at and I thought had a nice day, just kind of an impression to me, was Peyton Wilson. They ran a lot of three linebacker stuff today between Queen Roberts and him. And I saw his closing speed, and you saw it, and it was like, whoa. I mean, that guy's just different. Even among a defense that has pretty good athletes now, he just zooms around the football field, and he makes his impact felt in different ways. He closes windows and makes it a lot harder for quarterbacks to process what's around. And so I looked at some of the plays he was making. Man, he was just flying around making plays that made you turn your head and like, oh, wow, that guy went around. Oh my, look at what this guy's doing now. So he really, really, really took the bull by the horns today, and I think made a good starting impression for where he's going to be. And so good first day of practice, pretty light. Not a crazy amount. We saw some walkthrough stuff. Like Broderick Jones was starting at right tackle. Dan Moore Jr. was at left tackle, and Nate Herbig was at center. Would not overreact to that. I do have questions about what they're doing with Broderick Jones. I don't love that they are going to play him at both spots to start off. I think it kind of muddies the waters. It could make it tougher for them. But what I also will say is that I think Fautanu is growing. I think he's playing better. And so I don't view this, for example, as like what happened with Russell Wilson and I think could happen with Russell Wilson as long as he returns soon enough. In that I think he's going to have to do, more to lose the job. I don't think, Dan Moore's going to have to lose the job, for example, in order for Troy Fautanu to get the starting role. I don't think that's where we're at. And so I think Troy Fautanu has a really good shot to earn it. They started mixing him in a little bit. Broderick Jones moved to the left. And so doing that signals to me that they want this, they're pushing this issue really early. And so I think we'll see it more and more the further we go along. So we'll see what happens at that tackle spot. But I still believe that we'll see Troy Fautanu starting. And that's largely because I believe in what Troy Fautanu brings to the table more than anything. So I really do like Troy Fautanu and his growth pattern in this offense. So we'll see what he can do. One last thing I do want to talk about, and it's kind of made the rounds, the George Pickens, Zach Ghazzani situation. I know this is pretty big. Ray Fittipaldo of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reported that they got into an altercation. Um, here's where I'm at with this. When I saw George Pickens and Zach Ghazzani interact today, he came over to the sideline, and George Pickens, that is, came over to the sideline, pretty upset. Zach Ghazzani, though, did follow him over after one rep where they both were kind of yelling at each other. They pushed each other, and then kind of were talking it out. It seemed like there was some relationship building there. George Pickens is not used to, I think the type of coaching that Zach Ghazzani brings to the table, which is, this no BS type deal. And right now, I don't think it's an issue. I think that is what he needs. I think when you look at George Pickens, he needs that kind of hard coaching and something to push him. We'll see how he responds. But right now, I think it's kind of on the competitive juices side rather than the this could get out of hand side. We'll see, but I'm not going to hit the panic button on that just yet. But I'll keep a close eye on it over the next few weeks and months heading into the season. All right, folks, thanks for listening to the Steelers Breakdown podcast. We'll be back tomorrow, day 2 of training camp. We'll talk about training camp practice and kind of what happened that day. We will be back. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn the notification bell. If you are listening to this on a podcast platform, make sure to leave a review. Folks, thanks for listening. Next time.